Hi everyone, Anthony Morganti here. A little while ago I did a video demonstrating some of the new features found in the current version of Photoshop. One of the new features I covered in that video is actually a feature that's found in Camera Raw. It's called a Vectorscope. Now in that video I just kind of gave a brief introduction to the Vectorscope and I demonstrated how you could use it. I did mention though that I would be doing in the near future a video where I will go into more detail on the Vectorscope. That's what we're going to be doing today. Before we do, if you could do me a favor, please share and like this video. And most of all, if you could subscribe to my YouTube channel, I would really appreciate it. And that would help me out a lot. Now, as I mentioned, the Vectorscope is in the current version of Photoshop. It's not exclusive to the beta version. So if you don't like using the beta version, don't worry about it. You have it in the current version of Photoshop. It is in Camera Raw though. Now, as you can see, I have an image opened up in Camera Raw. Now, by default, you won't see the Vectorscope. By default, you should see the histogram, and it would be over here at the top right. Now, I purposely closed down my histogram just in case your histogram isn't showing, because to get to the Vectorscope, you need to right-click on the histogram. If the histogram isn't there, you could go to this little piece of real estate that's up here at the top and right-click there. Then you'll notice we could get the Vectorscope or the histogram. Now, just for demonstration purposes, let me just bring up the histogram because by default, your Camera Raw should look like this. To get that Vectorscope open, then for you, just right-click right on the histogram and then go down to Show Vectorscope. And there you can see there is the Vectorscope. Now, to simplify things a little bit and to make it less cluttered, I'm going to close down the histogram just for this demonstration. Now, as you can see, the Vectorscope's a circle, right? So it's got 360 degrees and it has all colors going around the circle and it has these lines. These lines go to some specific colors. These are the primary colors in the lab color space and in the RGB color space. And going around from near the top here, we have red, then we have magenta, then we have blue, then we have cyan, then we have green, and then we have yellow. You also notice there's a little line here, and if I hover over it, it says skin. The Vectorscope is a great tool to adjust skin tone, and I'm going to demonstrate how to do that in this video. But again, to simplify things and kind of get rid of the clutter for now, I'm going to get rid of that skin line. To do that, just right-click right on the Vectorscope and go down to Show Skin Tone Indicator and just click there and I got rid of it. So now we're looking at a Vectorscope. Again, it's that circle. We have colors going all the way around. You'll also notice there's a cloud kind of in the middle. That cloud is the pixels of the image plotted. More specifically, it's the color of the pixel plotted. So if you have a red pixel, it would be plotted towards the red side. If you have a cyan pixel, it would be plotted towards the cyan side. Furthermore, the further away from the middle it is, the more saturated it is. So if you have something that's really, really saturated cyan, it would be plotted way out here towards the outside. If on the other hand, it was just barely cyan, it would be plotted more towards the middle. Now, it's important to note that this plot, it's only color. It has nothing to do with luminance or brightness. But that's not saying that if you went and adjusted, say, contrast, that you wouldn't affect the color of the image. Because you know that if you did go to, let's say, light and you move contrast, you're affecting the color. And you can see how the Vectorscope is being affected. So this plot really has nothing to do with exposure, contrast, highlight, shadows, whites, and blacks, although those adjustments can influence the colors in your image. Just be aware of that. So we have colors going around, the outside hues of color, and then we have saturation. The further out from the middle you are, the more saturated it is. Now, a practical application of the Vectorscope is to get correct white balance. You'll notice this image is too blue. It's too cool. And this is a legitimate image. This is a raw file. I took this myself with the Fujifilm X-T1 a long time ago when the X-T1 was brand new. And for some reason, at times, that camera would, if you had it on auto white balance, it would be just too blue. Now, the obvious way to come in and try to fix that is to go to color and go to color temperature. And you can see it says as shot. and I would move the temperature and tint slider. Well, the Vectorscope will help you do that. The idea here with the Vectorscope is when you want to adjust white balance, what you want to try to do is you want to get this plot of pixels more towards the middle. Now, there are exceptions. I'm going to cover that in a moment, but if I could get this cloud so it's more evenly distributed in the middle, I would have a more properly adjusted white balanced image. So, for example, if I take this temperature slider to the right, you'll notice I'm moving the Vectorscope kind of diagonally up towards the left, right? So it's going up towards the left. So, and as you can see, I'm getting rid of the blue in the image itself. Now, if I reset that slider, you'll notice the plot is kind of down low to the right. So when I move that temp slider to the right, I'm pushing the plot more towards the top left. Now you can see I kind of corrected it. Now it is kind of maybe shaded a little bit more towards green, towards this way. So I could go to the tint slider, move that to the right. And you can see how I'm pushing it more that way. And if we look at the image, I corrected the white balance fairly easily by just looking at the Vectorscope. Now, let's try a different image, because if you try to get that plot directly on the middle for every image, it sometimes won't work. For example, I have this image of our cat, and there's all earth tones in this image. There really isn't any blues in this image at all. So there's no cyan, no blues, no cool colors. There's just kind of warmth here. So if I come in with the temp and tint slider and tried to get this cloud to be directly in the middle, it wouldn't be correct. So you kind of, know what you're working with. In this case, all earth tones. So it's too warm, unlike the previous image. So what we're going to do here is we're going to kind of move this to left, and you can see how it's moving the cloud to the bottom right. So it is kind of pushing it more towards the middle. And then I don't think I have to do too much with tint. We could try to move that around, maybe a tiny bit to the right. Now you'll see the plot isn't directly over the middle. It's favoring the warmer tones, and it should, because this image is dominated by warmer tones. So you got to kind of know what you're working with and kind of use the Vectorscope to your advantage when you're doing this. Now, that's fine and dandy. Now, what about that skin line we had there? Well, the Vectorscope really shines when you're trying to adjust skin tone. Now, let me show you. I'm just going to click done on these. And let me, in this folder here, I thought I had it actually in Photoshop. Yeah, I do. Okay, so we have this image here. Let me fit it to screen by hitting Command 0 on my Mac. It's Control 0 on the PC. And this is an Adobe stock image, unlike the previous two images that I took. I did not take this image. And I'm sure that the photographer who took this kind of wanted the tone this way. And I should respect the photographer's wishes. But for demonstration purposes, I just want to show how you could kind of get her to have maybe more proper skin tone, for lack of a better term, because what's proper is really what you want it to be, right? But in this case, let's see what we could do and how would we do this. Now, when you open a non-RAW file up into Photoshop, you'll be opening it up into Photoshop, not into Camera Raw. So to get to Camera Raw, you would go up to Filter, and then go down to Camera Raw Filter. And I usually just use the keyboard shortcut Shift-Command-A because it's easier. And then once you do that, you're in Camera Raw. And as you can see, we have the Vectorscope. Now, I'm going to right-click on the Vectorscope, and I'm going to show the skin tone indicator. And that's showing this line. And you'll notice this line is between yellow and red. That's where a skin tone is. It's favoring yellow a little bit, or favoring red slightly more. Now, one thing to know, it doesn't matter if the person is white, black, Asian, if they have lighter dark skin, darker light skin, it doesn't matter. As far as the Vectorscope is concerned, race doesn't matter because it ignores the luminance level. And I'm going to demonstrate that in a moment. So it really doesn't matter what race the person might be, or how dark or light their skin might be. The Vectorscope will work the exact same way. Now, the way you want to use it is you don't want to adjust the whole entire image. You want to just adjust the person's skin. So what you're going to do is you're going to get a mask. And with the mask, we're going to get a person mask. So we'll click on the person. And when this shows up here, what you want to do is make sure that you click facial skin and body skin. So you have those two checked. Now, it's kind of optional whether or not you click eyebrows, but sometimes the eyebrows, it won't mask perfectly in between the hairs of the eyebrow. So you may want to check that too, and lips as well. If you don't check lips, if you do check lips, it will favor red a little more, obviously. But I'll check lips just to show you. It really doesn't hurt to check these things. So you're going to always want to check facial skin and body skin. Sometimes, probably most of the time, you're going to want to check eyebrows. And sometimes, and again, probably most of the time, you're going to want to adjust lips. You don't want to create 4 separate masks. You just want to create a single mask. So click Create. Now we have our mask. Now you'll see our Vectorscope is showing that most of the plot is on this line. It looks pretty good, but it is off just slightly. So there's 3 different ways we could adjust her skin tone. The first way, you already know, we could go to the color and we could move the temperature slider. And you could see as I move the temperature, what's doing to the Vectorscope. I could then move the tint slider. So that's one way. Another way is I could go to this hue slider and I could move this. And if I move this, you'll see how it's moving the Vectorscope. So what I want to do is try to move it so it's more in the middle or more over that line right here, this skin line, right? So that's another way to do it. Let's reset that. Now the final way to do it is you would go down to point color. You would get an eyedropper, and what you want to do is pick somewhere on their skin that's not too dark and not a highlight. So not the brightest part of their skin, not the darkest part of the skin, something that's more kind of in the middle, like maybe right there, right? Then you would go to hue and you would move hue and try to move that line so it's more in the middle, like that. And then you could go in and maybe it's a little too saturated. You could pull some saturation. Notice when I push saturation to the right, I'm pushing this the Vectorscope plot more towards the outside because I'm obviously increasing the saturation. So the pixels are getting more saturated. So the plot is going more towards the outside. So we don't necessarily want to do that. In this case, I think I want to take a little bit away. Now, luminance, theoretically shouldn't affect the Vectorscope. And you can see it's just affecting a little bit. So we can make it a little bit brighter. Now, variance, why a lot of people prefer to use point color when adjusting skin tones is mainly because of this variance slider. If you have someone and their skin looks kind of toned unevenly, maybe they have just like a dark blotch or a light blotch or something like that because they, we're in the sun and something doesn't look quite right, you go to variance. And if you move it to the right, you'll make that worse. If you move it to left, though, you'll kind of blend it more together. So that will give you a better kind of look. So that's that. I think this is a decent kind of skin tone adjustment. Now, what I would also do with this model, and just let me show you, is next thing I would do is whiten your teeth. I'll just show you that as a bonus. So we'll go and we'll create a new mask, and we're going to go to people again. But this time we're only going to click on teeth, and we'll click create. Now, this has nothing to do with the Vectorscope. So what we'll do with teeth is you want to go to exposure and you want to make them a bit brighter. And then you want to go to color and you want to remove saturation. Go to the saturation slider, move it to the left. So that whitens your teeth. And then when you're done, you're done. So there is before and there's after. I could probably work on their skin a little more and make it a little better, but that gives you an idea of what you would do. And then when you're okay with it, just click OK. Now, typically, you probably wouldn't want to have done this on the background layer like I did. How you would want to do this, and let me show you, is we'll get this image here. Let's center it. And here's a perfect example. We have 3 races of women, and you're going to see that the Vectorscope works the exact same way for all 3 women. But the way you would do this is you would duplicate the background layer. On a Mac, hit Command-J. On a PC, hit Control-J. Then you want to make this layer a smart object. If we make it a smart object, we'll be able to go back in and readjust things. It will remember what we did, so we could readjust whatever we adjusted. So that's a great advantage. So to do that, go up to Filter and then Convert for Smart Filters. And you'll know it's a smart object when you have this little square in the corner of the thumbnail. So now we have this layer. It's a smart object. I'm going to go to Filter and then down to Camera Raw Filter again. Now, just like before, we want to come in and we want to get a mask, and we'll go from left to right. So we'll start with this lady here and we'll get a mask, and it's got to find the people. And then once it does, you can click on her little icon there, and then we'll go face, body, skin, eyebrows, and lips. And then we'll click create. Now, remember, don't create 4 separate masks. Create a single mask. Then for this adjustment, let me try. Now, I showed you the 3 different ways to do it. For some images, one way might work better than another way. So it's good to know all 3, and it's good not to get kind of pigeonholed in only doing it one way all the time. So on some images, coming in and just adjusting temperature and tint will work. On other images, coming in and adjusting the hue would work better. And then in other images, point color would work better. So experiment. Now you can see how the plot of the Vectorscope is going more like down towards the lower left. So what we want to do is we want to move it more, not that way, like more towards the right. So it's right over this line for skin. And then maybe we could increase saturation a little bit too. You can see what we're doing to her skin. So that's the first adjustment. Now we're going to add a new mask, and we're going to go to a people mask, and we'll go left to right. So we'll get the woman in the middle, and we'll do facial skin, body skin, eyebrows, and lips. And we'll do create. Now the Vectorscope here, similar to the first lady, it's kind of falling off to the left. So for this lady, why don't we try to do the temperature and tint slider instead? And you don't have to do one or the other, by the way. You could do both. You could do all 3 on one person. It might work, and I could just tell the temperature's not working on her. So let's go back to this. I tend to use this hue adjustment more often than the other ones. You can see that looks pretty good right about there. And by the way, their skin tone wasn't off that much, right? So you know that, but we're tweaking it. Now we'll do the lady on the far right. So we'll go to people, and we'll click on her little icon, and we'll do facial skin, body skin, eyebrows, and lips. And then you'll do create. And then for her, again, you'll see the Vectorscope. It's just falling off towards the left a little bit. So I'll go to this color, and I'll again kind of do it the same way, pushing that to the left like that. Now, I don't like the lady on the far left skin. I don't think I did a good job there. So what we'll do here is we'll try to fix it. Looking at the Vectorscope, not even looking at the woman, but she's fairly fair complected. So that's pretty much the way it's going to be. Now, to give you a before after, we could go right here and just click right here. There's before and there's after. Very subtle adjustment. But you could see that hopefully we improved their skin tone. I mentioned this before, when you're doing a video and you're trying to think of what you're going to say next, it's sometimes difficult to do a precise adjustment like a skin tone adjustment might be. But I encourage you to practice when you're not doing a video and just see how it works for you. I think you'll find the Vectorscope will come in very handy. I do want to show you one more thing though. As you look at the Vectorscope, as I mentioned, it's kind of have this red, and it's not directly at the top, it's kind of off to the side. When they first introduced the Vectorscope in Camera Raw, the complaint many people had is it wasn't exactly like a Vectorscope that you would find in a video application. A video application Vectorscope has red at the 3 o'clock position at the far right. So it may be difficult for some people who are more trained or attuned to editing video when they come to the Vectorscope in Camera Raw. So what they did is they gave us the option to make red be at the 3 o'clock position. So to do that, just right click right on the Vectorscope and put show red at 3 o'clock. So now it's over here. Now the other advantage of having it at the 3 o'clock position is if you go down to color grading, and this hasn't changed, the color grading color wheels have always had red at the 3 o'clock position. So I thought it was a little curious of them when they added the Vectorscope to Camera Raw to put red kind of offset towards the top and not at the 3 o'clock position like it is on many video editing applications. So when you're doing color grading on a video, you're used to that type of Vectorscope, and you could seamlessly move over and use the Vectorscope here, or at least have it match the color wheels that are in color grading with red on the far right. So you may want to adjust your Vectorscope. Again, just right click right on it and have it red at the 3 o'clock position. Particularly if you're new to Vectorscopes and you move over to a video editing application someday, you'll be able to kind of hit the ground running with that Vectorscope there. And mostly Vectorscopes and video grading applications, or applications where you would video grade, they're a little more complicated than this Vectorscope. This Vectorscope's in Photoshop, so basically a little bit simpler, easier to use, but still very effective. And hopefully you could do it better than I did in this video. But I'd like to thank everyone who watches my videos. I really do appreciate it. And again, if you could do me a favor and subscribe to my YouTube channel, that would really help me out, and I really would appreciate it. I'll talk to you guys soon.